All right, get into it. What do you got?
CD, would you just mind explaining how Ollie hurt his shoulder, please?
So last Wednesday at training, just leant down for a ball, basically diving for a ball, and we had a player on the opposing team in our match simulation do the same thing and just landed on it. So a slight dislocation that's obviously meant that Ollie's had to have surgery yesterday, which has been successful to stabilise the joint, and he's going to be out for a period now.
How serious was the surgery?
Ladder J type surgery that would suggest that he's going to be out, for the early part of the season. Obviously had similar type surgery at the same time last year, so I'd imagine that he's back around about the same time, around 3 or 4. But right now, obviously the most important part is to get him back into training at an appropriate time where he can start to do some contact work, close to when the season starts.
So in layman's terms, CD, that type of surgery is like a tightening up of the shoulder joint?
It's really to stabilise the joint. Obviously when a dislocation happens, there's a loosening in there that obviously needs to be tightened up. So he's had that surgery now. The joint in theory is as tight as it's going to be. He'll now need to have some recovery time over the next week and get back into some running and then progress into contact work, which I imagine will be towards the end of what is now our pre-season, and he'll start to move into more contact stuff once the season starts.
And that's different shoulder, same surgery?
Well, it's slightly different surgery than what he had last year. I think last year was a labral tear, but similar type of prognosis, and I imagine we'll be out for a similar period of time.
Is he walked under some ladders or stepped on some black cats or something? What's happened with Ollie?
Look, I think it's just unlucky. I don't think there's looking back at the footage of the actual incident, there wouldn't be anyone who wouldn't have had a similar outcome, I think, based on the incident that occurred. So disappointing for him, but all he can do now is get it done and approach his rehab in a professional way, which I'm sure he will.
He is a professional, but does he sort of have that happen? And in that instant, I don't know if you were there or not, but is he furious? It just can't catch a break.
Well, I think it's all of those emotions you go through. A period of anger, devastation. I imagine feeling surely it can't have gone the same way as what it did last year. So. But he's now certainly in a position where he's come to terms with what's happening. As you say, he's an absolute professional. I'm sure that once he gets through the post-surgery haze, he'll be thinking about what's next for him and how he can come back bigger and better.
He only missed 2 games last year from memory, the first 2 of the season. Give you confidence, CD, that once he gets rolling, he'll be back and no dramas.
Well, he's the type of guy who really pushes as well, so that's why I'm hesitant to put any sort of dates on it at the moment, because the reality will be is that he'll work as hard as he possibly can to get back as soon as he can. Now, the coaches are going to have to balance that with when's right for him to come back, and obviously taking into account the views of our medical staff. So but he'll work hard. He'll get back as soon as he possibly can, and when he's back, then we need to make sure he's right.
Is it safe to say a conservative type of approach, or if Ollie and the doctors agree that round 1's good or round 2's good?
I think with the coaches, they'll go through exactly that when the time's right. The challenge for our coaching group this year is going to be as much about picking a team that's balanced and with the way they want to play. So, we're obviously really disappointed with Ollie getting injured, but at the same time, we've got other players who play a similar type of role who, we've got a whole heap of confidence in. So if he was to miss games at the start of the year when the first team gets picked at AFL level, then we're confident we've got players who can do the job for us.
Yeah, that's sort of, sorry, but in a way that was sort of a bit of a knock on you last year, is that there was sort of one dimension. How will Ollie's absence restructure your midfield?
Well, it just means that he's not going to be part of it early on. But I think when the coaches come to pick their first team, as I say, it's going to have to be picked with whatever game plan we're actually going into the season with in mind. And our challenge is obviously continuing to get more run in the team, continuing to get players who aren't, as you say, just playing in one spot, that they've got an ability to go inside and outside, those types of things. So, we'll approach this season confident that we've got players who can do those jobs, and obviously we've added some talent over the last couple of years to add to that group.
There was talk that Santel Pepper might play more forward this year with the balance in midfield. Does this injury open up the door for Peps to play more in the mids, or go back to that?
I mean, I think we've got a lot of players who can go through those types of roles, who are forward types. I mean, Ebert missed half of last year, didn't he? Who you would say is probably a direct sort of replacement. But we also want to add some guys, and the coaches have been willing to talk about that. We want to add guys like Rosie Butters to that group. Carl Amon can go inside now. Mays has been training outstandingly well so far. Dersma's going to have the ability, we think, to go inside at some point as well. So the mix of the guys will be really interesting to see what we end up with, and training right now is the best indicator of what we got, and I think that it's an exciting group.
Will Ollie need to have surgery at the end of the season for the shoulder, or is this all sort of solve the issue?
Yeah, I mean, I know that there's been some talk about that same thing last year. So no, I mean, this is as it was last year. There was no need to do any further operation after the operation that he had. Obviously, this is the other shoulder, and the surgery that he's had is to clear the issue up. Now, how his rehab goes will obviously determine what happens into the future, but there's no suggestion right now that he has to have any further surgery to fix up this issue.
So it's not a play, sore, or year type of injury?
No, this is sort this out now and get it right for when he comes back, and when he comes back he'll be ready to go.
So from the way you were talking, it's not been ruled out for round one. I mean, there's still a possibility he can recover in time.
I think it's highly unlikely that Ollie's available for round one, but to Theo's point, he's the guy who will approach his rehab in a really professional way, and so who knows when he'll be back. What I do know is it'll be as quick as anyone can possibly get back from this type of surgery.
This happened last Wednesday. How come the club took so long to actually mention it?
Well, he obviously did it at the end of training. We took until Monday to get him in to see the surgeon, and he got the surgery done straight away.
So are there any of the young blokes raring to go? I mean, we've seen a brief glimpse of Georgiades, who looks like a genuine prospect. Any of those young fellas like we saw last year ready to hit the track around one?
Yeah, well, I think all of those, the top four guys that we picked in the draft positioning themselves, pretty well for the start of our season. Obviously, Georgiades, you mentioned there, has taken some really good marks, has shown why the guys were so keen to draft him. His hands are outstanding. You've got Miles Bergman, who's athletically fantastic and who can get on the end of things. Mead, who will have that ability to play mid forward, is probably another one of those guys that you'd add into the mix now that's potentially closer to a game than if Ollie was available. I'm forgetting the other one. Help me, Dylan Williams. Williams is right now. You would suggest that his strength is not necessarily his running, so he's eager for the balls to come out and make sure that we see his footy ability. But all of those guys have really pressed. They're all body-wise looking clearly like they're physically capable of competing. If you look and rewind 12 months, I reckon you would have seen three guys who you would have thought were a little bit undersized, whereas I think if you look this year at the four that have come in, you'd certainly say that they're more physically ready. So I'm excited for those guys to be pushing.
So Mead's in the mix for round one in that case?
Well, Mead will get an opportunity, I'm sure, throughout the pre-season to impress. I mean, round one's a long way away at the moment, Lee. So, but they'll all get an opportunity. We've got a really, outside of all, we've got a pretty healthy list at the moment. Guys are on individual management programs. You'll see guys from time to time who aren't training on a Wednesday, just to make sure that they stay off their legs for a bit, whether it be Hartlett, Cleary, Burton, those types who don't tend to do 3 main sessions outside per week. It doesn't mean that they're injured. It just means that they've got their individual management plan. So I think if we selected our first team at the moment, we'd have probably 43 available. So healthy list, which is great at this time of year.
So pretty much a full list to choose from for the intra-club game next Friday?
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll leave some guys out just for their own management, but right now we don't have any significant injuries outside of Ollie's right now to concern ourselves with.
Willem Drew's tracking good in his recovery from heel surgery.
Drew's just got back into main training right now, so again, I'm sure you probably look at him as one of those guys that might be eyeing a spot with Ollie out, but Drew's come back in really good nick. It was unfortunate that he had to have the surgery that he did, but he'll certainly be pushing for a spot early in the year.
And it feels like every time we speak to you, I suppose Jack Watts comes up pretty often. How's he travelling back in the main training?
Yeah, back in training. So right now he'll be available for next Friday night, and potentially we'll look at whatever management is needed from there. But he's done everything he possibly can to position him for a good spot in 2020.
Question from our news guys. The China game, from your football department point of view, any updates on that, or what will you do going forward with that?
Yeah, so I mean, right now I think you've seen the statements from both the AFL and Port Adelaide. We're progressing as if the game is going ahead. I mean, from my perspective, my responsibility with China is to make sure that logistically the players and the coaches are able to get over there and do all the things that they need to do. So there are decisions, obviously, that the club are going to have to make down the track. But my primary concern is for the logistics of the team and also their health. And I know that on the health factor, the club and the AFL are absolutely behind that as well. So they'll have to make some decisions down the track. I think right now, they're in a bit of a holding pattern, but we're progressing as if the game is going ahead.
Do you lean on the AFL there? I know that you have a lot of Port Adelaide people that go over to China often for business purposes. Do you lean on them to say, we don't think it's right, or do you have to ever say, we don't think it's right?
That won't be my role. I mean, right now we'll take advice from government, from health organisations as well. Having some experience in this type of stuff back in cricket, it's really important that as much as you possibly can, you take the emotion out of the situation, you deal with the facts that are in front of you, and you don't make any rash decisions. So I'm sure the club's going through exactly that at the moment, and when the time comes, I'll provide my advice. But right now, it's clear that we're progressing as if the game's going ahead.
Beautiful.
Thanks, Ed.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Appreciate that.